if people understand what is biologically available for our bodies to work with, they don't have to go through these things. They don't have to experience these physical ailments that they're not just genetic. As much as people try to push that concept, it's like they're not just genetic. They get triggered through improper balance within our body. And after, it was probably, like you said, somewhere around the 6-week mark for him, where he came home and he goes, you know what happened today? And I was like, what? He goes, I walked by the donuts and I didn't even want one. And I was like, that's amazing, because that's the mental freedom of the addiction finally let go. And I remember thinking, yeah, I've been experiencing the same thing recently where I recognize it. My mind looks at it and goes, oh, that would be delicious, but I don't have to have it. I'm not fighting myself to not eat it.
Hi everyone, welcome to another podcast, and today we are talking to Selina Fox. Selina has a great experience with the carnivore lifestyle, and also she has a lot of story to share with us that I'm sure it's going to be very helpful to a lot of us watching this video today. So Selina, thank you very much for your time and welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here, and I look forward to the wonderful conversation we're about to have.
Amazing. So Selina, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yes. Well, my name is Selina Fox, and let's see. Wow. I am a 10-month carnivore as of this month. And I started my journey into carnivore. I really actually started out keto-based for about 7 years. I think that's a pretty common thing that kind of happens. A lot of people say keto is the gateway to carnivore. So I do tend to find that to be a common thread. My journey really started because of needing to find help with my health. In 2017, I was diagnosed with stage 3 thyroid cancer. I had a 4.3 centimeter tumor growth on my right thyroid lobe. And that came at a point where I had already been fighting for answers. I had already been trying everything, not realizing that I had been battling cancer for a while. I didn't know. Nobody was testing me. Nobody was going through all of this thing to really see any of this information about myself, because I had gained a severe amount of weight rapidly. And that is what everybody focused on. Well, if you just lose weight, all of these symptoms you're experiencing are going to go away. And it was like, but why am I gaining all the weight? Like, something's not right. And it took a long time to even get to a point where in 2017 I was diagnosed. And it was kind of one of those things where you couldn't help but know that suddenly, oh wow, something's really wrong, other than, and I'm talking a mile-long list of symptoms I had been experiencing for 7-8 years. But the growth that happened on my thyroid happened quickly. It came out of nowhere. There was nothing there, and within like 2 or 3 months, there was a lump large enough that it was hard for me to swallow. I was choking often whenever I would try to eat. And it's like you couldn't ignore something's here. They ended up sending me off for biopsies and ultrasounds and all of that stuff. And they were like, wow, we have a serious problem. And when the biopsies came back, they came back cancerous. And at that point, obviously they told me that my 2 options were to go through radiation therapy, which kills the entire thyroid, or complete thyroid removal. And both of those options lend to having to live on a synthetic medication for the rest of your life, because you cannot function without your body having a process of T3s and T4s. So it just doesn't work. You'll eventually decline. Your body will start shutting down. So that concept for me was just wild. Like, I don't know that I could live on a medication for the rest of my life. Something like that does not seem right. Like, this can't be the only answer. And as I've said many times before in my posts and stuff, our bodies are designed to heal. I mean, we're taught this in elementary school. You know, you get a scrape on your knee, you know, you're taught how the body sends out all the, you know, red blood cells there to help, you know, repair, and your skin regenerates. And it's like, well, if our body does this, why would it not do this also within our organs, within any other part of our system? You mean it only affects if we get a cut? Like it just didn't make sense to me how our process of understanding healing seemed so lacking in its ability. And I refused treatment at the time, which was a scary choice. You know, I'm not going to lie, that took a step of faith in knowing that I know that there's a better answer. I didn't know what the answer was yet, but I knew that there was a better answer. And I started major research. I mean, I started diving into the ins and outs of, well, why would my body start basically attacking itself? Like, why was my body creating this environment that produced cancer cells to be a predominant factor? Like, something had to have happened. I had to have been doing something. And everything I came to was food. Everything I came to. What is my body ingesting? All of these other foods, you know, they cause reactions. And I started learning about like goitrogenous vegetables and going, oh my gosh, this shuts down my thyroid function. Well, if this was a primary part of my diet, because I was not a unhealthy eater, you know, I ate the right foods. Like, so it didn't make sense. Like, how could I end up so sick? And is this really genetics? And it was like, this just doesn't seem logical. I mean, I ate salads all the time, and that was primary part of my diet, and juicing, and, you know, I would go on all of these detox cleanses, and it was like, how is it I could end up so sick? And it was like, wait a minute, a lot of these things affect our bodies in a negative manner. And it's like, how can we be so blind to the effects of some of these foods? It's like, okay, there's benefits, but there's usually just as equal disruptions to the body as there are possible benefits. And the more and more I came to everything, I ended up becoming, I called it keto at the time, but I was much closer to animal-based. And because I had eliminated like all these goitrogenous plants, which on keto doesn't leave you with a whole lot. It mostly leaves you with like some berries, a few citrus fruits, like not a whole lot outside of, you know, the fats and meats. So I didn't know what animal-based was at the time, but that's basically like what I was. And I did that for several years. And finally in 2021, my husband urged me. He said, go get checked out again. You've been feeling amazing. You look amazing. You're doing things that you haven't been able to do for years. I mean, because before that, it was everything I could do to get through the workday. And I would come home and I basically would just sleep. And I barely was able to do anything with my son at the time. And it was just like this complete 180. After about 2 or 3 years, I started noticing, like, we were going hiking, we were going kayaking, and, we were going camping all the time. And I started learning how to surf. And it was like, I went from, I can barely get off the couch at the end of my work shift and drinking 2 or 3 energy drinks a day just to get through the day because I was so tired, to I'm not doing that. And we're living a life. Like, we're actually living life, not just existing and surviving. And so he convinced me. I went and had another biopsy done. And they were like, it's undeterminable right now. And this was in 2021. And I was like, okay. They're like, we can't say that it is. It just is undeterminable. There's a couple of cells that look a little funny, but everything else seems to look normal. But we really can't guarantee. And I had a different doctor at the time. And she explained to me how I could live with half of my thyroid and not have to live on a medication. And I was like, okay. And she said, because your body is still attacking this foreign thing that's living on your organ, I said, your body's just always fighting all the time. So that's why I was still like a little bit tired, but I was 1,000 times better than what I was a few years ago. And this was just with me changing my diet. I did hyper supplement quite a bit in the beginning, a lot of the nutrients that I was very, very low on. I had an entire panel done like 3 times throughout that period of where's my vitamin D, where's my B12s, where's my zinc, like where's everything sitting? And so I did everything I could to learn how to bring those values back into, balance. And when she explained to me that I could live on half of my thyroid without medication, and it would most likely give my body like that reprieve of like, oh, okay, we're not having to like fight something anymore, I agreed. When they removed my right thyroid lobe and they did a full after surgical biopsy, like they biopsied the entire lobe, there were no cancer cells to be found. So
Wow.
that part goes, the body has what it needs because it knows what it needs to do. We just have to provide an environment that supports its function. And that was such an eye-opening awareness to me of food is medicine. It really is. It's what gives our body the life force in order to move and grow and exist and thrive. And I cannot tell you the amount of just ecstatic joy I had to hear when she said there was nothing to be found. We couldn't find anything. And it wasn't like a questionable thing because it's like they had the whole thing right there. They can do whatever they want. And it was like, okay, I made the right choice. I did the right thing. And much like what I've heard you mention is once you know what's possible, how do you keep that to yourself? Like how do you go, oh no, this magic little secret knowledge I'm just gonna hold on to and nobody can know about this. It took me a little while to still become like full carnivore, right? Because I didn't know that space. I didn't even know that people that were carnivore. I had never heard of like Sean Baker or, Anthony Chafee or I hadn't heard of any of these people.
Yes.
And it was in 2024, at the end of 2024, my husband was listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan and Sean Baker. Everybody, I think, who's in this space ends up hearing that one from 2017, but we didn't hear it till 2024.
I was actually just thinking here that some types of thyroid problems can be like an underactive or an overactive, of the thyroid. So, some problems might result a weight loss, but
Yeah.
if it's other type of problems can result to weight gain, no? And I
Right.
think that was your case, right?
Right. Yeah. So I what they determined is that before the cancer situation became cancer, is that I was hypothyroid,
Okay.
and
Yes.
which is really interesting because there's like a trail of data that sort of like led to that nobody told me about connecting the dots. So when I was about, I think I was 11. I was 11 years old and I was diagnosed with hypoglycemia. And that already is a hormonal and metabolic like imbalance of some sort. But nobody ever explained to me what it was, why I was experiencing it. The only thing that they ever told me was, well, since you have this, you have to prioritize protein before you eat sugars. But nobody said stop eating sugar. Nobody said, don't eat all these heavy carbs and stuff like that. And so I found it really interesting that when I got all the way to this point in my older years with cancer, and I started kind of just tracing like my medical history back and looking at and going, oh my goodness, there were signs of something not working properly within my body that all like are sort of connected. Like they all kind of led down this same trail. And that part is where I go, if people understand what is biologically available for our bodies to work with, they don't have to go through these things. They don't have to experience these physical ailments that they're not just genetic. As much as people try to push that concept, it's like they're not just genetic. They get triggered through improper balance within our body. And it's like, well, what causes improper balance? Because, we're designed to heal. So if our body's fighting all the time to heal all these little tiny nuances and it gets tired, the tiny nuances become big nuances. And and that's the perspective that I don't think a lot of people have. They think, oh, I just suddenly got cancer. That's not how it works. As much as that's what we are told in a lackadaisical explanation from the medical perspective. It's like, oh, you just got it. It's just genetic. Well, did your mom have it? Did your dad have it? And it's like, no, 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 no. There's an environment that got set up within the body that allowed that to become a problem. And to know that we can heal this just through food, through proper nutrients, is my biggest like microphone of how can I scream this loud enough for everybody to hear, because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. you know.
That's just so crazy, how they have been telling us for so many years that it was genetic, it was, something that just happened. Like how just now we are discovering that this is not true, that the body
Right.
can heal itself, and that cancer is just like a symptom that,
Yeah.
and it's not a cause. So doesn't matter
Yeah.
if we do all the treatments, the traditional treatments, it will
Right.
come back again if we continue living the same lifestyle.
And I don't know how many people that I've met where, like you said, like it could come back again. How many people I've met that they they beat it and then it comes back, or they end up with a different cancer, and it's like, well, obviously something in the body is not happy. It's not in an environment that's supporting true health. You just sort of remediated one room of the house, not the whole house.
Correctly, and it's interesting that you said as well about your childhood, no? That at 11 years old, there was already, your body was already trying to tell you some things, but
Yeah.
the lack of knowledge from ourselves, of course, as a very young age, and our parents
Yeah.
as well, that didn't know much as well. Um, and yes, just interesting how also our childhood tells a lot of things for
Yeah.
our adults life as well.
Exactly.
And even before that, you said like before 2017, you said that you were eating like health food.
Right.
So what was the health food that you were eating? Like,
So I I did mostly all home cooked foods. So I didn't eat out like at fast food restaurants all the time. I didn't, eat a lot of junk, I guess as they would call it. Not to say I never had any. It's not like I was Miss Perfect, because I wasn't. But that wasn't a standard way of eating for me, where I do see a lot of people that those things are everyday foods. Those things are 2 or 3 times a day. And so I didn't do that. And I was attempting to figure out how to lose all this weight that I was gaining. So of course I was often working out like twice a day. And of course I was doing cardio like a mad woman. I was on those bikes and walking those treadmills and doing HIIT workouts like it was nobody's business. Little did I know at the time, I was actually hurting myself more because my body was already so tired and stressed and worn out from just dealing with itself. And a lot of people who have thyroid issues, overexerting in exercise actually does more harm. And so I didn't know that. I was told by the doctors, I need to lose this weight and I won't feel so tired. I need to lose this weight. I won't feel so dizzy. So what do you do? Because the mainstream teaches us in order to lose weight, you count calories. You overwork yourself to have negative calories so that your body will, get rid of the excess fat. And I did lose weight for a while, but I got sicker. So it was like, how is it that I'm losing the weight? I'm looking better, but I feel like I'm dying. And I was. And that part was such a mind mess up for me. Like, how is it that I can be doing this and I'm losing this weight, but I feel like I'm dragging myself through the day. I feel like I can barely exist, and I wasn't happy. And it's like, most people go, oh, being skinny is happy. And I'm like, no, being healthy is happy. Being lean becomes a proponent of being healthy, but to be skinny and not healthy does not lend to being happy. And that is another, a whole other concept of realization. I did come to a point when I started my keto journey, I did end up losing over 112 pounds. So I mean, I did the work. I put in, all of that effort, and I started losing the weight easier when my body started actually having the nutrients that helped it. But when I was trying to do it the standard way, where I ate green salads and I didn't use any oils and I removed all the fat, and I ate in a way that was the low fat, high carb, but not bread carbs, but I ate so much zucchini and broccoli and lettuce, and because that was the way to go. And I ate chicken, but I would double boil it so it wasn't fatty. I mean, it was just like this, the complete opposite of what my body needed. And it was, I lost weight, but I got sicker. So it wasn't until I switched over to the keto side of eating where I was introducing higher fats, I was introducing higher protein bases, and I was reducing my plant intake, did my body actually start to drop the weight, and I started to feel better. So it was an interesting experience to go, okay, eating all these plant foods and working myself to death, at the gym twice a day wasn't making me feel better. And that is something I don't think a lot of people are willing to admit, because the visual importance is so important that they allow the social pressure of their image to override how they're actually feeling inside, how their body is actually reacting. Because there's so many people that I've known in my lifetime where it's like they're fit, they've got like great muscle structure, and they're doing all these things, and they're running these marathons, and they're doing all this stuff. But then I ask them, well, what do you feel like when you get up out of bed in the morning? How does your body feel? And usually they're miserable. They're like, oh, my joints are hurting so bad, and I've just got to get moving. And once I get moving, I feel good. And I'm like, well, guess what? Since I've been carnivore, I hop out of bed happily. Like, I'm not trying to work my joints out just to move anymore. And when I was living the so-called standard healthy lifestyle, it was hard for me to get out of bed. My hands would hurt. I do have 2 collapsed vertebrae in my back. And when I would get out of bed, I would have to like roll over to my side. I'd have to like push myself up gently. I would have to kind of slowly get to my feet. And it would take me like 5 or 10 minutes to get to where I was okay to bend over and pick something up off the floor. Or, to do something that to me is like, we should be able to do these movements until we're time to go.
Yes.
not just, once we hit 30, we can't bend over and pick up something we dropped on the floor. That's so crazy. But there's so many of these people that are healthy, doing these foods. But when they get up in the morning, they're having to do the same thing I used to have to do. Their body hurts too much. And I kind of go, if your body's hurting so much, is this really good for us?
Yeah, they might think this is because of the amounts of exercise that they are doing, no? Because especially like
Exactly.
marathons, especially, it's very it causes a lot of inflammation to the body.
Right. There's a lot of
And yeah,
jolting, and yeah.
but probably if their body being given the right type of fuel, they would be recovering quicker than in a standard diet.
Yeah, for sure.
I yeah, I'm feeling the same, a similar thing as well, because I also like to work out, and I feel that my body is recovering faster
Yeah,
now after some intense workouts. But before was much harder in many ways. Well, first of all, I used to exercise so much, and I was never losing weight.
yeah,
I was always getting more weight, and especially after a certain age, it was more difficult to lose weight. Now, before
absolutely.
it was a little bit easier, but as a teenager, I was struggling with obesity. Like I managed to overcome it around 13, 14 years old. But that food addiction never left me. I lived
Yeah,
my whole life with the food addiction, and I was always putting the weights back, and then starting a new diet, and then putting the weights
hmm,
back. And at some point, I decided to accept it, because that's what they tell us. No, you have to accept who you are and just be
yes,
happy with what you are. No, like so I
right.
was overweight. I was no, because I'm tall. Like people would not say that I was overweight.
Right.
With my clothes, I would. People would see me as skinny, but I know that. Looking myself in the mirror, I always had that big belly and that bloated belly that lives with me my whole life because I was
Right.
always eating a lot of carbs coming from grains. No, not only breads, but also like chickpeas, beans,
Yeah.
lentils, and loads of veggies as well, and loads of fruits because I thought that was health. No, only the breads I thought was not health. but
Right.
and that's just crazy. And then to the point that I started even doing triathlon just to get rid of that amount of
Right.
calories, but not because it was my favorite type of exercise. No, because no, before the triathlon I started running to lose weight, but that
Yeah.
wasn't helping. That wasn't being enough. So let's do triathlon now. So now I was
Yeah.
running, cycling, swimming, doing gym,
Right.
and I was getting more weight. I used to go for my trainings full of carbs, no gels, bananas, chocolates, sneaker
Yeah.
bars, and I would come back after 5 hours training even with more weight. That
Right.
was crazy, and my body was taking longer to recover from all these
Yeah.
crazy trainings because my whole body had so much inflammation.
Right. It's maddening because what is the mainstream idea of what we're supposed to do is literally what's hurting us. But that's what people are being told. I mean, and that's the concept that is being put out there. The other part that's tricky, and I do not have anything against these young, like personal trainer influencers. I'm 41 years old, so I'm not a young chick anymore. I'm I'm not in that age range, but I don't have anything against them. But they're also proposing this idea that's not necessarily best for those of us that are over 30, 35, 40. It's we genetically do have a shift that happens in how our body processes things metabolically at a certain age. It just means you have to work with it differently. It's not that you have to get old. It's not that your body has to break down. You just have to work with it differently because it's functioning differently. But they don't know this. So there's a lot of people out there that I'm seeing, these women particularly, that are 40, 45, 50 years old, and they're going to these like 20-year-old trainers that don't understand that there's a metabolic shift, and they're still telling them to do these things that, yeah, that works in your 20s because your body is ramped up for a certain level of metabolism, no matter what. But once you peak over that, and it's doing more harm to a lot of these people because they don't know. There's not an education on understanding metabolism throughout the ages of people. It's set from a single perspective, and that's in your 20s. Our metabolism shifts. It changes. Whether we want it to or not, it does. So how do you work with that after? And a lot of people are ending up with a lot of hormonal issues that are happening because they're trying to eat and train the way their metabolism was set up in their 20s. And it's not the same. As much as we'd love for it to be, it's not. you know?
Yes, yes, I started to struggle with this as well because in my 20s I could live on diets and exercising crazy amounts of hours that I would manage to keep that balance. I would
Yeah.
get a lot of weights and then I would go for a radical diet, counting calories, not counting visually. No, I never count
Yeah.
them with the balance, but I would just, eat much less. Starve, stay hungry,
Yes.
fight with the cravings, and feel very bad about that and hating the process of the diet and counting the days to finish that diet or to come to the shit day, no? To I mean to the
Yeah.
yeah to so then I
Yeah.
could like just eating crazy amount of sugar and then start
Yeah.
the diet again on Monday and living that horrible life. And I thought that I would be living this forever. But after 30, then 31, 32, I started to see that the traditional diets were not working anymore. I couldn't just like suddenly cut out the calories and just going back to that, salads and veggies and low, no less carbs. Um, it wasn't working anymore in my 20s because you
Yeah.
said the metabolism, it would survive, that
Right.
health diet. But then I started to see that it wasn't working anymore. So then, like, oh no, now it's different. Now, and especially like this year that I turned 35, and I realized that it's not working anymore. Everything that you knew before about your body and your metabolism,
Yeah.
that's different now, and we need to find a new way to overcome it. So even if you accepted your food addiction and you're living with
Yeah.
your diets forever, now you have to find another strategy. And that's when I started again to research a lot of things because I thought I knew already about diets, because, okay, I have been doing diets for 20 years, so I know how my body works. It's okay. I'm
Right.
just, gonna live like this forever. But yeah, so at 35, there wasn't only the overweight, the bloated belly. Now started the digestive issues like
Mm.
heartburn, like
Yeah.
I wasn't digesting very well. There was times that I had to wait. I don't know if I had like a late dinner around 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Or I would have to wait like 2 hours sitting on my bed before sleeping because I would feel very bad if
Yeah.
I just couldn't sleep or, with the digestive issues that I never had before. And that was really worrying me, no. And then
Yeah.
of course fatigue. I was having a lot of coffee just to compensate that amount of sugar crash that I was having through the day. I was eating
Yeah.
7 to 8 times per day, counting like
Oh.
breakfast and lunch and dinner and snacks and this and that and fruits and bars and the, counting everything would be like 8 times per day. That was insane. And
Yeah.
I was hungry.
Yeah.
How can I eat like 7, 8 times per day
I
and I
know.
still hungry? I was
Right.
holding myself to not eat more. Otherwise, I could
Yeah.
eat 10 times. I would stop eating just to sleep,
Yeah.
basically, no?
It,
And some people might wake up during the night to eat
yeah.
more.
Oh,
So like,
absolutely.
so there was no break for my metabolism, for my digestion to just have a break and
Yeah.
reset itself. Anyway, yeah. So then, thanks God, I found about carnivore. And it's the craziest thing is that I saw some things about carnivore diets like 2 years ago, passing
Yeah.
by Instagram because I work with food, with the food
Right.
industry for 10 years. So I always receive food content. And 2 years ago, I received this this carnivore diet video that someone was telling very confident about the carnivore diet that has been changing his life, that he eats only meat. And then I said, wow, this is crazy. How can someone be promotes like eating only
Right.
meat? Like 2 years ago, I was completely closer to this idea. No, and
Yeah.
even
Me
if like
too.
I was someone that I already knew about keto, I already knew about low carb or paleo because I have been doing diets my whole life, but I still
Right.
thinking strongly that meat and
Yeah.
fat was bad for us. So I said, I
Right.
can't believe someone is promoting it. Like this guy wants to kill people. Like social media is going too far. I closed the video straight away and I got upset. I got angry about that. And crazily, after 2 years, when I started to get, like almost depressed about my health
Yeah.
and my overweight situation, I started to research again, and suddenly a carnivore lifestyle came to me again. And I
Yeah.
said, oh, wow, this is still going on. There are still people
Right.
talking about this, and now is another person. So let's give it a try, no? And then
Yeah.
I watched this whole video, I think it was on YouTube, and I said, wow, that actually makes sense.
Right. It's so crazy how before, when you're not willing to listen to it, when you're not willing to hear about it, like you, I was the same. I was keto for so long. And the idea of going carnivore, like you said, was just kind of like, oh God, that just seems that's a bit too far. I don't know who's coming up with this, but that's a bit too far. And I remember when my husband was listening to that podcast, and I wasn't with him, watching it with him. He was watching it in his room. And I was like walking by the hallway, but I could hear it. And I was listening, and there were just certain parts as he was talking, and I was like, wait, that makes sense. Like that makes sense. Why are we doing this? After that, I went into, what is carnivore? How do we, obtain all the nutrients from our meat? Can we really live off this? And what about vitamin C? And the whole rabbit hole of carnivore. I jumped off that cliff and I went researching. And it was still probably 2 months after I heard that. Before I told my husband, I was like, I really think this is something we should look at. And he was like, no, that's just way too radical. That's just, and this is after he had already watched that whole thing too. And I was like, I don't know, babe. I've been looking into this information and I really think we should try this. And it was about 2 weeks, and he was having a few issues that he never had experienced before. He'll be 33 this year. So at that point, he was just switching to 31, 32. Things were starting to do kind of like you were saying, suddenly things aren't feeling right. And I looked at him, I said, just do it with me. I was like, just do 90 days. We can guarantee 90 days to each other. If at the end of 90 days, we both are like, holy crap, this is garbage. Why did we do this? We get to stop. Who cares? But what if? What if at the end of 90 days, we feel better? What if? And he looked at me so reluctantly and he was like, fine. If you're doing all the cooking, I'll do it. And I was like, we're in. You got it. And we were really strict that first 90 days, really strict. And it was the dumbest time to agree to do it, I have to say, because we agreed with each other. We started October 14th of 2024. And we didn't even think about the fact that, oh wait, we've got Thanksgiving coming up, we've got Christmas coming up, we've got all these holidays with the family, and we just committed to 90 days, which took us after New Year's. And I was like, and I laughed, I was like, do you think we've got this? And he looks at me, he goes, if we're doing this, we're doing this. And I was like, okay, we're all in. So of course our family thought we were crazy because we are at holidays and we're like, we'll take the ham and we'll take the eggs. You guys can have everything else. But we did it. And we both, at the end of the 90 days, were like, I don't think we're going back. It was too good of a feeling. Everything felt so much better. And for my husband to go through that was even more so because he wasn't like me in the sense of I had battled all of these illnesses. I had gone through all of these different things to heal. And he was always the guy that I'm in good health. I feel fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Why should I ever diet? Why should I ever do this? He didn't have that mentality. And even him, he said after the 90 days, he goes, I didn't know how sick I really was because I thought it was normal. And for him, I mean, compared to most people, he was. I mean, he was picture perfect health. You know, he looked normal. He didn't really have any major issues per se. I mean, yes, he had allergies out the yin yang and he got sick constantly. But I mean, he wasn't overweight. He didn't have any of these things. And after the 90 days, he goes, I didn't realize how bad I felt. And now for him to go, my body doesn't hurt. And he actually ended up losing like, gosh, I don't even know, like 25 or 30 pounds. And he was like how you described yourself, in clothes. Nobody thought he was overweight, but he definitely had a belly going on, and he definitely had some squishiness everywhere. But in clothes, he looked great. And so it's funny how, a lot of people, I think, they don't even think that that they feel bad until they don't.
Totally. Yes, I started to realize it as well. Like it was December 2024, like I think end of the year, everybody starts to think about, like life, end of the
Yes.
year, starting a new year. So that's that time, that comes all that thoughts. And
Yeah.
then I was feeling a little bit depressive, because of, my health, my food addiction. And then I was like just questioning everything, like, come on, like, I do so much exercise. I really think I know about health, like because I have been doing diets and studying about nutrition my for 20 years.
Yes.
So like, what is happening? Like, come on, like, and now I'm gonna become 35 next year. So I'm feeling all these issues. Like there wasn't only my bloated, huge belly and my digestive issues that was really concerning me a lot. There was like also small things that I noted after starting the carnivore diets. For example, dandruff. I had dandruff in my hair for my
Yeah.
whole life. I lived on shampoos,
Right.
anti-dandruffs. But that was something that wasn't even my concern. No, my concern was like
Right.
digestive.
It's
That
just
was
you.
so bad. And I was like getting really concerned about this because I say and especially because working with the food industry, I was visiting restaurants every day and working with food brands, with food processed foods, fast foods. And I
Yeah.
said, and I have, and that is, all these thoughts were so strong in my head, like last year, in December, that I said, okay, Rafael, you have been working, you spent your last 10 years working with the food industry, just increasing your food addiction because you're already a food addicted man,
Yeah.
and so if you spend your next 10 years in the same way that you have been living, you're gonna crash,
Right.
man. You're gonna
Yeah.
crash much before that because your body's already telling you that something is wrong. And then like, yeah, and I just cannot leave, when I have all these things in my, like, some people, they just ignore it. No, they just say, no, okay, it's just, that's BS. Let's just continue. But I knew something was wrong because all these
Mhm.
amounts of thoughts, it's something is wrong. So
Yeah.
yeah, luckily I decided to um, reorganize my life and have a look. So in January, I started, end of January, I started the low carb, which was something that I already had experience. But
Yeah.
in 2 months of low carb, okay, it helped me a little bit. Maybe I lost like 2 or 3 kilograms, a little bit less of bloating, but that's it. No miracle because I was still having loads amount of fruits and grains because I thought the
Right.
grains were essential.
Yeah.
So, and then I said, okay, this low carb is not working because I'm doing so much exercise and this low carb and I'm getting more weight. So then I started carnivore in April, and I decided to go, no, as you said, 100%
Yeah.
carnivore, not the lion diet. I started like more animal based. So I told everyone around me that I would do only 1 month, but in my head I knew it would be longer. I just didn't want to scare anyone, especially my wife as well. That was like, "Oh my gosh, what are you gonna do?" You know. And then, but yeah, but I also spent like at least a month, almost 24 hours studying about it. I couldn't
Yeah.
sleep. I was sleeping even less. I couldn't even work. I was just reading and studying and watching all the podcasts that I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
And and then I said, okay, I understand it, so now I can try it. And
Right.
then yeah, so in the first month I already saw that it wasn't just a normal diet. No, that was like completely different from everything I lived before. So yeah, as I said, no, all these issues disappeared. No dandruff, bloating, gas, digestive issues, huge amounts of coffee and weight, bloated, hungry, like being hungry all the time, craving for sugar,
Yes.
and the list go on.
So I have a question. Do you remember the moment that you realized you didn't want the foods anymore, like the breads and the sugars and the sweets anymore. Do you remember that moment?
I think it was like maybe after 4 weeks, like I think
Yeah,
5 weeks I started to be stronger because at the beginning
right.
I think the craving's still there, like we still like
Hmm.
because we're so used to
Yeah,
that. So I think it's different for everyone, no? But
absolutely.
I think after 5 weeks I started to feel more power to control like sugar cravings
Yeah,
and being hungry all the time. No,
yeah,
I think especially because of the animal based, I was still having some dairy that which would
yeah,
help me. Like if I wanted like maybe sweets, I would have like piece of cheese or like a raw
right.
milk. In London, we can
Yeah,
find raw milk or yogurt, so it would help me with this.
absolutely.
Uh, I remember, I think in the first months, I had like twice, like in my yogurts, I had a little bit of whey protein because of
Yeah,
my previous diet. I still have
yes.
some stuff in my kitchen. So I had this whey protein that I used to. By the way, I used to have all the types of supplements and vitamins before. No, like
Yes, me too.
as everybody know because I thought it was health.
Right.
So I had this strawberry flavor whey protein. I decided because I had like this sugar crave moment that I saw the whey protein. I decided to put a scoop in my yogurts just to have that sweet feeling. I said it's okay, it's
Yeah.
just protein. But and it helped, with the sweet craving. Like oh
Yeah.
wow, but I felt bad after. The next day or
Yeah.
in the night, I think I have a small headache that I never have. Or in the next day, I don't know, I just had some, I don't know, my tummy
Right.
didn't like that. But I always had before and I never had a problem. So then
Right.
after, yeah, I had one time and then I had it again after, I don't know, a week. And then, I just donate for a friend that was having whey protein and I just gave that back and yeah, I removed it from my house. But that
Yeah.
was only these two times and then never again. Yeah, and I think after 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I overcame that. Because of course, I think you also learn with the process. No, maybe I was not having
Yeah.
enough fat. No, I
Right.
was afraid of fat. No, even if I studied a
Yeah.
lot that I should have fat, I didn't know how much fat I should have.
Right.
So we learn with the
Absolutely.
the journey. No.
I remember there was a point where my husband came home from work and he looked at me, and at his work he works in an office. I work remotely, but he works in an office, not all day, but they go to an office and then he leaves and does whatever. But every day when everybody shows up at the office, somebody always brings like donuts, or sometimes people like come and give them cupcakes as like thank you gifts, and there's like always these treats. And before we had done carnivore, he was like, I would have one as soon as I walked in the door, and he goes, and I would be thinking about when I get the second one the whole day. Even if he left the office, came back, he's like, the whole day I would be, pining, hoping somebody didn't eat the last one so I could get a second one. And I'm like, yeah. And after, it was probably, like you said, somewhere around the 6 week mark for him, where he came home and he goes, you know what happened today? And I was like, what? He goes, I walked by the donuts and I didn't even want one. And I was like, that's amazing, because that's the mental freedom of the addiction finally like let go. And I remember thinking, yeah, I've been experiencing the same thing recently where I recognize it. My mind looks at it and goes, oh, that would be delicious, but I don't have to have it. I'm not fighting myself to not eat it. Whereas I used to before, like it was like a battle where I just have to really convince myself, you don't need that, you don't want that. Come on, that's not good for you, Selena. It's like I was beating myself up to not eat these foods. And I cannot stress to people enough, like, you don't know what it's like to have food freedom. You just don't. nobody could have explained that feeling to me, that I didn't feel like I had to eat it, or I didn't feel like I had to punish myself because I was trying not to want it. So,
Yeah, I think that's very important what you said about this freedom, no? That we have. It's unbelievable, especially for people that had food addiction problems, obesity, or
yeah,
sugar problems. Because some people, they might not have this problem, no, they might have other problems in
right,
life, and they don't
right,
understand it.
yeah,
So, but I think a lot of people today, because if we go outside, if we go out, we see that this problem is
yeah,
everywhere, and just thinking about having this freedom, no, and this power of controlling, our cravings. Because, like, come on, like, I could never go out without having a snack.
right,
And it
me
includes
either.
everything. And normal, going out to the city center, or just like, going for a road trip where it's like more than an hour driving, and you stop in that, that stops that
Yeah,
you don't have food in these places. No, there is no food. There's just
no,
junk food, and I always would get like a bar or a chips or something like that, because you're constantly craving something.
yeah,
Airports, like, airports are one of the worst, I think.
they are for sure.
and and you just feel in another level, no, that you can,
Mhm.
because now it's an opportunity. Actually, it's not only like the freedom and the control. It's an opportunity to do fasting, or to just,
Yes,
to jump
right?
so it becomes a great opportunity, actually, more than just the freedom of,
Yes.
no, I don't want it. It's now, okay, opportunity to do fasting, like.
Yeah.
So it's, because I know I'm going on holidays now next week, and I know that I'm gonna have a long travel in the airport, and I'm already thinking, okay, nice, I'm gonna do I don't know, my 20 hours fasting that day. So it's perfect. So I don't need to do,
Yes.
I'm not doing that many fasting, but I think it's naturally when we do with carnivore
Right.
lifestyle, that's natural, no? Like, to
Oh,
have like 12 hours or 14, 15, 16 hours, even 20 sometimes, because it's just natural. No, our body is not
yes.
hungry as we were before, and we normally might skip the breakfast, or no, we
Yes.
might eat twice a day maximum. So
Yeah,
that just becomes natural.
absolutely. Which is really cool to experience too, because that part I'm like, man, how much time I wasted eating or cooking, or
Yeah.
I mean, not that I don't cook anymore, but I cooked every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, two snacks a day for me, my husband, my kids. So, I mean, my my husband used to make a joke about my place being in the kitchen because that's where I always was. And not that I didn't like it. I mean, I loved it. It was fun. But in the same shot, I'm like, now I have so much more time to go do things. It's like I didn't realize how much time all of that absorbed from my day. Whereas
Yes.
now it's like with my little one, I'm like, come on, let's go outside. We're going to go play for a couple hours. I didn't have time to play for a couple hours. I might have had like 30 minutes, and then I needed to go get the next meal ready, or, do whatever, which it's like I wouldn't change the time that I spent because I was putting that towards my family, but in the same shot I'm like, I actually get to hang out with you guys now instead of me being in the kitchen while everybody else does other things. So it is really just a cool lifestyle in general, that it gives you so much more. And a lot of people, I think, they complain about the how can you do that? It's so restrictive. And I'm like, I have so much more freedom now. I can't even explain that to you guys. Like how much more I get from it by not having to go through all of that whole process anymore. I have time. I have mental freedom. It's like you get so much more. You do.
Yeah, and also, like, this restrictive, that people think that, oh my God, it's so radical. So you just eat meat and you don't get, like, how can you do it? But, like, of course, everyone is different. Everyone has, or we all have our own issues that we are trying to, to sort out. But like I was 100% animal based for 2 months and a half. No, after that, I started to have like a strawberry, maybe a blueberry, sometimes, like some maybe coconut
Yeah.
flakes, maybe some like dark chocolate, like 85%. But like sometimes that's when I go out. But of course, after this 2 months and a half, I saw all the health benefits that I got back. I got my weight back, my body when I
Yeah.
was like 17 years old, my
Yeah.
energy, my digestive issues disappeared, my dandruff. I just got so much better that I said, okay, let's try to have a strawberry sometimes, you know. But I still like 90% of my meal daily
Yes.
is meat, is animal based. The
Yes.
10% might be a little bit of strawberry or blueberry. So it's not a prison, like we can have
Exactly.
something outside of that, as because now what
Hmm.
is your body wants, the feel. So now,
Exactly.
and your body already healed from whatever you were trying to heal, and it switches to become to be a carbohydrate burner to a fat burner machine. So now you can have this flexibility in your metabolism,
Exactly.
but that's why I'm saying that everyone is different, and everyone,
Hmm.
some people might start it with different health issues that it might take them a year to have this
Exactly.
possibility of exploring other foods again. But I'm not saying that I'm exploring processed food or junk food. I'm having a
No, I
strawberry
hear you.
that I wash with bicarbonates and
Right.
vinegar, that I try to make
Right.
it as better as possible to eliminate everything. But yeah, I think when you step it in this level, then you can play around as soon
Mhm.
as you keep your animal based as a main
Right.
meal, right?
I always tell people because a lot of times when when I go places sometimes, or if I'm at like a family event or a gathering, or and they're offering things, and I mean every once in a while, I'll go pick out a berry or something and I'll have it, and I always get this, "Oh, are you allowed to have that?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what you mean by allowed." Because this isn't like you said, it's not a prison. I said it's a choice basis. I choose not to eat all of this stuff for the primary part of my existence. Doesn't mean I can't decide, well, today I'd like to have this, but I have control over it now, whereas before I didn't have control over it. It controlled me. And
Exactly.
and that's the difference. I tell people all the time, I'm not a carnivore purist. Like it's not this way and nothing ever, and no matter what, you can never have anything else. Because the reality is I also want to experience like life, and I joke where it's like, if I were to ever go to Italy, I'm probably gonna try a pasta dish once just to say I did because I've never had it. Will I eat it every day? Will I go back to eating that? No, but I mean, you want to experience the culture. So it's like, I don't promote eating pasta, but if I'm carnivore 99% of my life, I think it's okay if I decide to experience something once. It's like, it's not a prison.
Totally.
Um, and that part I do know it gets a little crazy with people sometimes, that they get a little like it's this way or no way. And I think most importantly, if I were to suggest anything to anybody starting, yes, be very strict the first 90 days. Get your body past the damage that's been done to it. Get yourself to where your mind doesn't control you with food, you control your minds with food. Do that. After that point, decide where you want to be with it. Decide, am I going to just be animal based and have, berries and honey? And am I going to be what they call, I forget what it is, but like lackadaisical carnivore, where I get to have dairies and cheeses and these little add-ins? Or are you going to be strict lion? That's your choice. but bring yourself to that point where your body actually heals enough to where you can hear what it's saying to you. That's the important part.
Perfect. Totally agree with you, Selina. And yes, and you already gave the advice for people who are maybe watching this video and considering start this experience. So yeah, that was my next question. I would ask you, what would you tell for someone? Because yeah, a lot of people still, because there is so many information today, and is what you said is it's very true. No, a lot of people because they don't study enough, and because they do not experience in their for themselves, they get paranoid thinking that this is a prison, that oh my god, I can never
Yeah.
eat my fruits or my salads or whatever they like so much that they cannot
Right.
live without. They think they can never have that again, but
Right.
you only discover it when you do the journey, and when you get your health and your freedom, back, and then
Yes.
you know what to do. That's it. It's gonna
Exactly.
happen naturally. We don't need to just be telling everything. But that's crazy.
Exactly.
But yeah, I still far away from the 10 months journey as you are,
Yes.
because it's just such a beautiful experiment. Like the way that we, like, because it changes our whole being. Like it's not just about a normal diet that make you lose a little bit
No.
of weight. It changes you literally, like I like to say, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like to the point
Absolutely.
that you start to see the words different. Like I don't know if it's happening to you as well, but
It
right?
is. It is for sure. I know everybody has a different belief system, and whatever anybody's faith is or their path that they choose spiritually, um, I know I have never been so connected into what I call source. Some people say God, some people, whatever that is for you, the connection that you gain in that department spiritually, I've never been so close as I am now. I couldn't, I thought I could. I thought I could hear it before. I thought I could be in that space before. But once becoming carnivore, it's like, oh no, 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 that was a fuzzy channel connection. That wasn't a clear connection. It was there, but it was a fuzzy channel. And now it's like I can't express to people like the amount of love you end up having so much more for people, and forgiveness and compassion. It's because you're able to see they just don't know because they're not experiencing what is like. I mean, it's a sense of pure love. I mean, I don't know how to explain that anymore. It's just this. It opens up that part of you that is able to just really connect into that space. So absolutely.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I think it just really changes you. It's like before you were living with some like fog, in your eyes and your
Yes.
ears and your smell, and now like smells become stronger. I don't know. It starts to become like more because, of course, because you remove all the junk of your life. So
Exactly.
that's obviously, and it's funny because my for a long time, especially in my 20s, having access already to a lot of videos on YouTube, I got myself a lot into studying like psychology, spirituality, philosophy,
Yeah.
self-help, just to because I wanted to improve, like as a human
Yeah.
being, and I thought that only being positive and studying spirituality and doing meditation and studying philosophy and getting more spiritual would be enough for me to be healthy forever, to not get sick, to
Yeah.
no. But in the opposite side, I was eating a lot of junk food, and I never
Right.
cared about this side. I thought that wasn't necessary, that I only had to take care of my mind and my emotional and spiritual side. But after 30, I start to realize that, wait a moment, the food is very important as well, because it's actually doesn't matter if you study a lot of philosophy and spirituality, if you're still having bad food,
Yeah,
you're not gonna get there, because this is blocking you. This is
exactly.
I don't know how to say. Yeah,
I
sometimes it's
know.
difficult to explain. But
It
yeah,
is.
it's
It
still
is.
gonna make you like it's gonna make us sick anyway. Doesn't matter how spiritual you are. I
Mhm.
believe, no, for myself,
Yeah,
experience for myself, that the food is very important, and I used to
it
ignore
is.
this a lot before, because it's easier to ignore when our body is
Mhm.
in the 20s, no, because it will
Yeah.
recover, no matter the damage that we do, no, for them.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I like as well to explore this savage in a good way, that starts to come up, like to the way that, like, for example, myself now, I want to be more in the nature. I want to walk
Yeah.
more barefoot in the grass, or in the sand, or in the nature. I want to be connected to the earth, to the nature. I want to have less artificial light in my face every time.
Mhm.
I want to be more in the sun, like this kind of thing, that I
Right?
used to ignore. Um,
Yeah. It's so funny because it's like you said, once you start eliminating all of that processed stuff inside your body, I think it allows your mind to clear, because I think truly the brain isn't being infiltrated by all of the chemical garbage anymore, right? And so you start to eliminate that, and I think it allows you to have this clarity to be able to recognize what we need. We need the sunlight. It's important. It helps our bodies to regulate hormonally. We need our bare feet on the ground. We need to be in nature because, I mean, we truly, our nervous system is regulated off of spending time in nature. There's a reason we were put on this planet, whichever way you want to look at it. It's because we're designed to be in synchronicity and symbiosis with Earth. I mean, we are animals just as much as the antelope, the lions, the bears. It's like, and they don't put themselves in boxes and live with artificial light. And when we do that to them, they usually don't live as well. I mean, what does that say for us? So it's yeah, it brings this beautiful, beautiful clarity, like you said, that suddenly you go, wait a minute, I need sunlight, and why do I have all these LEDs blasting in my face? Like you don't
yeah.
you don't think about that stuff when you're eating everything else, because it's just, I don't know, I think we're not able to process the need for it, the realization of how important it is. For sure. For sure.
Correctly. That's crazy. Yeah, I think we would stay like here for 3 hours or more, just talking about this,
Probably.
and how it transforms our life and blah blah. Because that's what it is. So how can people what are you doing to share more your voice, and your experience, that is very important, to share this with people. Like, are you doing some work, like to help people to overcome
Yeah.
their health issues?
Yeah, I do coaching. I do one-on-one coaching. I also, not only do I focus on an animal primal based carnivore lifestyle, but I also specialize in sexual health and wellness. So a lot of people don't understand the importance of that aspect of our bodies, but it does help to regulate our hormones. So I work, yes, weight loss, metabolic healing, and that as well. And you can find me on Instagram at Primal Fox Health, and I'm always happy to answer questions, even if it's just somebody who needs, a little nudge of data to help them along.
Fantastic. Okay, amazing. So I will leave all the contacts for Selena in the description of this video. And Selena, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
I loved your experience, and to know everything about you and your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.